So I hope the screen is visible. So this game was played long back and it was a fast forward blitz game, and but it's a very accurate game. It was played against a women FIDE master, and she started off with one pawn e4, and I was playing this position as black. So let's try to understand three games. I have categorized three games specifically as black purposely because we should understand the game from both the sides. So in the last class we understood the opening from the white's perspective. Today we'll be understanding game by game from the black's perspective. So opponent played e4, I played c6. Now this is something that I have already mentioned in the last week's class, that the reason behind this move is that I want to fight for the centers in the second move onwards. I'm giving the center to my opponent, so my opponent can just take it by going d4. It's a very standard move. And now after opponent has taken the center, now I'll fight for the center back. So I go d5, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, and now we both have center pawns. So this is where I'm having a pawn in the center, opponent has a pawn in the center. The point is we have to now start developing our minor pieces, the knights, the bishops from both the sides, and when we'll be thinking of castling. So opponent develops bishop d3, I played knight f6, and it's a regular development, and now it's a very nice move what my opponent played, pawn h3. Now why this move is played? Suppose if my opponent also tries to develop knight f3, I can basically play bishop g4, and then the knight is under pin. By this I mean that the knight cannot move anywhere because the queen will be gone simply. So the thing is, that's a very nice preparation move. Like they want to go knight f3, but they don't want to allow my bishop to jump up and pin the knight. So that's why my opponent played pawn to h3, and then I played knights. Now the question can still be that why did I not play pawn h6? Because the point is, even if they go here, I guess the position, it's a very standard setup that whenever the position is very open, meaning whenever the board has a lot many empty holes in which the pieces can be having the option to run, whenever there's a lot of choice, it's called open position. Whenever the choices are less, it's called as a closed position. So anyways, in an open position, bishops are dominating as compared to the knights. The reason being, suppose the position is very much open here, this bishop will take only one chance to run from the one corner of the board to the other corner of the board. If I keep a knight here, it's just not possible. If the knight has to run from here to say here, it will take a lot many moves. So if the position is open, bishops are considered powerful, more important as compared to the knights. In a different case, if the position is completely packed, if the position is completely closed, something like this, in this case, just a moment, yes. So now, even if I'm having bishop, my bishop cannot even cross this, because my own pawn is creating kind of a virtual wall. So my bishop cannot cross this wall. And if opponent has a knight, opponent can try to jump with the pieces. Let me just remove a couple of pawns from here. Suppose something like this is the case. Now the point is, my bishop is simply tied down, but opponent knight can simply, once it starts running to this square, it can start infiltrating in my camp. So in a closed setup, in a closed position, when there are not many entry points in the opponent's camp, knights are way more dominating than the bishop. So let's go back to the game. So here it's a very close position, so I guess it's fine. Even if the bishop is trying to cut my knight, it's of no issues. So anyways, this didn't happen. h3, knight c6, c3, a very nice move because I'm trying to hit a pawn, and it's a very nice, it's also a very nice trick. Suppose if my opponent plays something like, let me just pass a move. If my opponent plays some move like a4, it's a very nice trick to play as white. Why? It looks like that I may be like, they may be hanging upon. So suppose something like I guess this is a free pawn, because bishop b5 check, and suppose if you try to block with the bishop, then obviously you lose the knight. But in this case, after bishop b5 check, I am having the option to either retreat or even capture the bishop. So that is why this is not possible. In some cases, like let me just show you, in some cases, these kind of things are very much possible. For example, let me just show you a game. In some positions, whenever there is a pressure, now let me just go back to the exact situation. Yes. Okay. Now, the thing is, the question is, the knight and the queen are trying to hit on the pawn. So number of attackers from black are 2. Number of defender right now is only 1. So the question goes something like this, that can the black side capture the pawn? Now once you look, on the face value, if you're looking this position at a face value, it looks very easy to say that, okay, yes, number of attackers from black side are obviously more than number of defenders from white, so this pawn can be eaten up. But there's, if you start looking deeper, you'll realize that there's something more. My queen is also kind of looking at this pawn. It's not defending the pawn directly, but indirectly it's trying to defend the pawn. So this is not possible. Suppose knight takes, queen takes, and now I'm having this indirect tension between both the queens, and this bishop is the middle piece, which is causing the traffic between these two queens. If I am able to remove this bishop somewhere so that the queen cannot move, then I'll be able to take the queen for free. Suppose if I just remove the bishop back, I'm not creating any threat with this move, so he can just just take me. But if I just create a bigger threat, then the queen won't be moving, and what's a bigger threat than a check? So these kind of moves in which I am removing the middle piece away, so that the corner piece is not even getting a chance to move, it's called as discovered attack. In short, we call these things as disco, because now the queen cannot even move. It's a check move. So if you can block the check, it is fine. I can even take it. Again, the queen cannot move, because again the threat is to the king. King will again take the bishop, and now finally you lose the queen. So let's go back now. Now again, so these are the things you have to be very careful, that we can see that, okay, the two pieces are attacking on d4 and only one knight is directly defending d4, but there's also a queen which is indirectly pointing to d4. Now how, suppose if opponent plays bishop d7, and now the question is, again, suppose if you make a random move, suppose if you make any random move, now again the question is, can the pawn be taken for free now? Because there are two pieces attacking, there's one piece defending. Now what was happening, like what these two moves have changed a scenario is, when the bishop wasn't here, and suppose if you take my pawn straight away, I'm having bishop to b5 with a check move. It's a check move. That is why I'm able to take the queen for free. Right now, if somebody makes bishop d7, and if I play something like this, now this pawn can be snatched very quickly, because bishop b5 is not a check move. It's not a threat. So now queen can capture, because the queen is having the legal move, and queen can just capture my queen, and even white will lose more material. Let's go back to the game now. So that is what I was trying to explain here. Better is to just save the pawn like this, because if someone tries to go here, Actually, even if the queen is trying to indirect defend my knight, bishop b5 is a check move, I understand, but knight can simply come back and again take the same piece. So that's how it is done. Now suppose I'll show you the same case. Suppose if he plays this, had my opponent played this move, I played this move, and suppose my opponent simply tried to castle maybe over here somewhere. Now again the question, can I take this pawn? In the chat, if I can hear some responses, or even you can unmute and just respond. Can black take the pawn?
No, Sarthak sir, the same principle will apply.
Yeah.
Uh,
If I try to
it takes, and then
knight
yes,
takes,
and the queen takes the knight.
and then the same point,
Same
bishop
one.
e5 check,
Yes.
and because it's a check move, I lose the queen.
Yes.
So this is not possible. So that is why in theory what happens, that after knight c6 generally players prefer pawn c3 because it's a very nice pawn structure, it's a very nice setup with the pawns. So that's why my opponent played this. I played e6 to bring my bishop out, and then I can just castle. Knight to f3, a nice move. Bishop d6, castles h6 now, because the point is I want to castle, but now I don't want this bishop to come and pin my knight. Because now if instead of this move, bishop d6, and now if they try to pin my knight, because I have not castled, at higher levels we can even go for these kind of kicks. We can even try to expand on the king side by pushing the pawns like this and try to push the bishop and play in such kind of scenarios as well when I have not castled. But if I do the same thing after I castle, suppose now if I just castle and they go here, and if I now try to kick the bishop away 2 times, the point is now my king side is very weak, because the wall, what we always call in terms of chess, the wall has gone. There's no wall, there's lot many weaknesses in my camp. So now my king is very weak. So that is why right when I was about to castle, I played pawn h6, because now I don't want the bishop to come and pin me. Opponent played rook move, because rooks love, by the very tendency, by the very nature of their piece, rooks love open space. So I castled finally, and now bishop bringing more pieces in the game. And now you should notice, there's one very common points once you start looking at all these games, that in the opening phase no one is trying to enter, no one is trying to cross even the midline margin, no one is even trying to create any sort of attack. Both the players are only trying to develop their pieces on the board. Now a6, knight, bringing the knight in the game towards the center, and this is what I was like, I had told in the last week's class, that knight, like usually knight likes to sit on c3. Right now c3 is not available, so after a3 and d2 I'll always choose the central square. So d2, queen c7, making sure that my queen is getting developed. At the same time I'm having kind of a battery. Now what is a battery in chess? Suppose, let me open a board. Battery means if a backward piece is supporting the forward piece, at the same time a forward piece is also supporting the backward piece. Like this can be a battery, because the same rule applies. Backward piece supports the forward, forward supports the backward. But so this can be a battery. Backward piece supports forward, forward supports backward. This cannot be a battery. This is not a battery, because only the rook is supporting the knight, but not the vice versa thing happens. So it is always a good thing, you can say, to form batteries, because whenever we launch batteries, suppose now my bishop, if the knight goes somewhere away, now my bishop can even enter with check. So I'm not saying this is the best move, but having batteries is generally a nice way to develop your pieces. Also, I was trying to play pawn e5 because only when I play pawn e5, this bishop, the c8 bishop of mine, will be coming out. Because right now, if you look carefully, this bishop is kind of stuck behind this pawn chain. It's like my own pawn chain is being like it's like being a jail for my bishop, and it's not able to come out. So I want to push the pawn, and these pawn pushes, after you have castled, these pawn pushes are called as pawn breaks. So suppose a4 was played, and now I played e5. Now the point is, after e5, I'm threatening one thing. Suppose if my opponent makes one mistake, suppose if my opponent just makes any random move, let me just pass my move. Now there's something in chess called as fork. Whenever one piece of yours attacks more than one piece of the opponent, it's called as fork. Like suppose my pawn can now go here, and it's automatically attacking two pieces of the opponent, so it is fork, because now opponent can only save one of them, and I'll be more than happy to snatch the second one. So generally, whenever two pawns are there on the midline margin, it's recommended, and this is what I always recommend, that whenever there are two pawns of the opponent, always you should capture one of them. Like 9 out of 10 cases, it is the way to go. Whenever you see two pawns of the opponent, just capture one of them with your pawn. Like if you were playing as white here, it is recommended that you should capture here. Even my opponent did the same thing. Now knight captures. Okay, now the question can be, why did I not capture with the bishop? Because I'm knowing that these two bishops are having lot of open space, and as mentioned before, in the open space scenarios, bishops are kind of more powerful as compared to the knight. So I won't be much happy after this transaction happens, because now the point is, uh, even his rook is trying to eye on my queen, indirect eye, what I was mentioning before, it is the same concept, that now the bishop can go somewhere, and his white rook will be attacking the queen. Now here some of the discovered attacks can be, you can just try to snatch the pawn, because I cannot snatch the bishop back because I lose the queen. So these are very risky things to go for. So here I should, as black, I should capture as knight, but even then I'm not so happy. Why I'm not so happy? Because I have opponent had, like white side is having the bishop pair, as black I don't have the bishop pair. So let's go back. So here I captured with the knight, and now after change, now everything is fine. Now I'm having a decent position in which both the bishops are ready to come out. My rooks are able to come out in the open space, because rooks love the open space. I won't be developing my rook over here because there's no open space here. Generally in chess, there are some rules and some recommendations on where you should develop your rook. Suppose I'll give you a scenario. The point is, just imagine that there are rest of the pawns as well. Let me just give you equal pawns. So 4 pawns on both the sides. If I have to develop my 2 rooks, I'll be, first of all, my first preference will be to choose the open space, because only then my rook can enter wherever it wants. That is my first preference. Suppose for some reason this square is not available, for some reason e1 square is occupied, I cannot put on e1. My second preference should be on a semi-open file. Now, to understand chess in more, in a more professional manner, we have to understand the nature of file. It's very simple thing. Suppose whenever in a file, now the files were, just to recall, the files were the vertical lines in chess. So in a file, if you see 2 different color pawns, it means they are closed, because there's, on the B file there cannot be any progress, because both the pawns are not allowing anything to happen. Same logic can be said for the F file and G file. Now on these 2 files, 2 different color pawns are there, but also there's a lot of open space. But in future, what will happen, they will become closed again, because once the pawn goes up from both the ends, the file is again closed. So from the very beginning itself, I consider it as closed. So long story short, just to simplify, in a file, if you see two different color pawns, I'm not saying two different pawns. Suppose even here, okay, now this is good. G file is completely closed because one is white color, other is black colored pawn. E file is completely open because no pawn. Same goes for the H file, same goes for the A file. They are completely open files because there are no pawns. G file is closed, F file is closed, B file is also closed. Now, D file is not closed. Why? Because two pawns are there, but they are of same color. So it is called as half open, half closed, or semi-open, semi-open file. D file is semi-open, C file is again semi-open. Going back to the question, suppose my first preference will be to choose the rooks on the open files. If I cannot do that for some reason, my second preference will be to keep my rook on that semi-open file. Now I'm having the option of putting my rook on D file as well as on C file. Both the files are semi-open, but there's a difference. The difference is, in this semi-open file, my rook is having a lot of space to jump around. In this semi-open file, I don't have much space to breathe, so I'll be choosing C file. So that's how we should prefer our development of rook. Now let's go back to the game. So knight went to f3, trying to hit my bishop, and now I didn't want to exchange the knight with the bishop, but bishop with the bishop can be exchanged. So I played bishop f4. Why? I wanted my opponent to capture me so that I can activate my queen over here. So this didn't happen. It did not capture me, obviously, because it will be making my job much easier now, because my queen is getting in the game and opponent's queen is not so much active, but I'm already like, suppose I'll just make you understand one more topic. Suppose, for example, if my opponent plays something like this, and now here is where again one concept can be understood. Suppose if you look at this knight, now always ask yourself threefold questions. Whenever you are playing any position of chess, always ask yourself three questions. Number one, what are you trying to attack? Like, where are your pieces trying to point at? If you look at the queen, the most natural reply you will be getting for this question is that we are trying to put some pressure on the knight. I'm not saying that you should snatch the knight, but we are trying to put some pressure on the knight. That is the first question. That is the answer to the first question. The second question that we should ask is, what is the defender of that piece? Who is the defender? So this G2 pawn is the defender. The third question that we should ask is, can I remove the defender somehow? If I'm able to remove the defender somehow, then I will be snatching the knight for free. Now in chess, even getting one pawn extra, even getting two pawn extra is considered as a match deciding factor. Once we start playing chess regularly, we'll realize that forget about the winning full pieces. Even if you can win one single pawn from the opponent for free, it will be deciding the course of the game. Now here I see that I'm putting pressure on the knight. G2 pawn is a defender. And the second question is, like, the third question is, how can I deflect the defender? How can I remove the defender somewhere? So now I'll see that this defender is doing what else? So this defender is also looking at h3 pawn. This defender is also trying to defend the h3 pawn. So I'll try to attack h3. Pawn will capture my bishop, that is fine. But then I get the free knight. And now if you notice at this part, like below the a8 square, it's showing that black is +1. It means black is up a pawn. White has 5 pawns, black has 6 pawns. So it's generally considered, like, we have to be very mindful of these things before we, like, many players here can, just choose a normal move like this. But if you start looking deep, we'll realize that this is a problem over here. There's a problem somewhere happening around these three squares. So it's just about to deflect the defender away. Let's go back, but this didn't happen in the game anyways. So after bishop f4, my opponent was not so helpful to me, so she played knight d4. I developed my final piece in the game because now my rooks are ready to come in the game. Queen f3. Now because the queen is developed, and now because the bishop and the queen together are trying to gang up on my bishop, they're attacking me twice, I'm only defending once. So now I have to make a decision. After change, takes, and now just bring the rook in. And she played a5, and then I snatched away. Why did I snatch away? Because I was knowing she will capture by the queen. And once she captures by the queen, I will bring my rook in, and I will be having the open file. And that is what the basics of chess is. To place your pieces, to manage to place your pieces on the best possible squares. We are knowing that rooks love the open file, but the point is implementation. How will you execute the idea that we are already knowing? Opponent's rook, if I just go back few moves, right now opponent's rook is having the only open file on the board. But after a couple of moves, what has happened is now I have the only open file on the board. So positionally, this is a small victory for me because I have managed to place my rook on the best possible square. And now they cannot try to fight for it because I will just snatch the rook for free. And it also will be kind of a checkmate in a couple of moves. So now I'm bringing my pieces, and this is called as battery, as I was explaining. Rook is defending queen, queen is defending rook. So again, I'm strengthening my control of the e file. And now you should notice, I brought my queen at the very end on the borderline, on the midline margin, because the queen is the most important piece of the board. So I don't want to bring the queen straight away in the opening itself to the borderline margin. So after queen e5, pawn g3 was the first critical mistake of the game, because the same thing, always ask yourself these kind of questions. What has the opponent made the last move? What was this like? So the answer will be the pawn has come up. Now what was the pawn doing earlier? Was the pawn having any job one move before? So yes, it was kind of looking at this pawn, but also the queen was also defending the pawn. So I guess it was fine. As soon as you push the pawn forward, neither the g pawn is defending h3 nor the queen is involved in defending h3. So free pawn, just capture it. And now the point is, see, because I'm having the control of the e file, at the same time I'm making sure that their rook is not coming on the best possible file. So at the end, she had to bring the rook obviously in the game, but now the rook is not so active. So I played this move, but here it is a very clear-cut win. Because we were short on time, it was a 3-minute game on both the sides. When the game started, it was a 3+0 without any increment. So we were playing very fast forward on the clock. But later I realized that this is a win straight away. If anyone wants to give it a try, it's very tactical win straight away. I started pushing g pawn because I'll show you how did the game go. After this, now see, look at the pieces. My pieces are suddenly entering the opponent's camp. Again, it's a battery, the second battery. Pawn defending bishop, bishop defending pawn. And now look at the queen, rook. They're kind of getting so passive. And in chess, half of chess is only about activity of the pieces. My queen is better than the opponent's queen. My rook is better than the opponent's rook. My knight is fairly kind of equal than the opponent's knight. And my bishop is way more better than the opponent's bishop, because it has just, just sweep in and it has just crushed the opponent's camp. So now I went for the check. Bishop goes back. And the final move was bishop here, because my opponent resigned here, by the way. But let me show you why did she resign. Because suppose if something like queen takes, rook takes, And now I'm threatening bishop h3, game over. Like suppose if something like, let me just transfer a move. Suppose if something like this is played. Now the point is, I'm knowing that this is what I was saying. Rooks always love open spaces. Look at this rook. Rook is not having any space at all right now. We can try to trap this rook because this is having, it cannot go here. Bishop and bishop will take a smaller piece. It can although go here, and it cannot also go here because bishop will take. So whenever the rook has only one possible option to move, we can try to basically think of attacking it. And that's why my opponent resigned here, because she anticipated that later on her rook will be trapped. Any suggestions in the chat? What should we do to trap the rook? It's a rook trap in, I guess, 1-2 moves. Two moves, it's a trap in the rook. Black to play. Rook c1 and 94. Yes. So if so one move is being suggested. So rook c1 if is played. Yes. So one of the move, yeah. So both the moves are equally good. The idea is very, very nice. So basically, if rook c1 first, then the point is it's not an attack to the rook right away. So this gives white one extra move to think. And because the point is now knight e4 is a threat, understandable, but now even he can also escape. And now if knight e4 is played, now he's creating the space for himself to escape somewhere else. And if we go knight e4, which is again suggested, straight away, this won't be giving white any chances to create any space to run. Because now if rook c2 and now bishop d3 is rook trap. Because all the possible three squares are danger squares. And this is how the game was finished. I mean, the game didn't go till here, but this is how the opponent resigned. So that was the first game. Now we'll be going to the second game. Let me just check. Oops. Yes, okay. So this was a 10+5 rapid, and so we both were having a good amount of time. 10+5 is a decent time. It will go something like for say half an hour if played seriously. 10+5 can go for 25 to 40 minutes, something like that, one game. So my opponent was also a very serious kind of a player. So he was 2173. It's a decent rating for a serious player. So he was playing again as white. So today's class is only for black openings. He played d4, and this is what I mentioned in the last week class, that both the moves are equally good. E4 is also good, d4 is also good. It depends on the perspective of a player, how the player approaches the game, how the player thinks about their moves. So d4 players are very positional. They want slow, boring games, and they want to snatch a couple of pawns for free, and they want to win the game in the endings. E4 players are kind of attacking in nature. So this is what the general division is. Again, it's not a strict division. Even d4 players are very, very attacking. Even e4 players are also very positional. Now d4, I played knight f6. I can also go d5 here, but knight f6 also has a clear-cut idea that I want to just see how my opponent is trying to develop their pieces. he played bishop to f4 and now I went d5. Similar story. E3 is played because now, if you notice carefully, if they play e3 straight away, it's the same problem that I had in the game 1. This bishop will be bound inside of this pawn chain. So that is why my opponent very smartly first played bishop f4, I played d5, and now he played pawn to e3 because now this bishop is out, this bishop can also come out. So that's how we should be very, very careful in our development of the pieces. In chess theory, this setup is called as the London system. And it's you can just type it on YouTube, chess London system opening. And it's one of the very, very popular openings. Like, it has been popular since 1800s and it has been played widely. Bishop f5, same idea, that I want to play e6, but my bishop will be trapped behind my own pawns. I don't want that. Bishop f5. c4, now my opponent wants some attack. So I played e6 because the point is, see, chess is like, the openings are more about who can develop more quickly. Now suppose here my opponent has played pawn c4. So one thing that can be that I should be reacting to this attack. But after I react to this attack, I'm helping my opponent to develop their piece. And just notice these two things. These are very critical and very easily missed things, that if c4 happens, I take pawn, bishop c4, I'm only helping my opponent to bring their pieces out. And suppose if I do the other way, after c4, if I do e6, I'm not reacting, I'm only acting now. Suppose he takes, I take, and now his bishop is still there, and now suddenly I have created the space for my bishop as well. So this way is faster way to develop your piece. So that is what you have to be very careful. Should you respond to every other attack that the opponent is doing, or should you just prepare for your development of the pieces? So that is something that we have to understand. So after this, e6, knight c3, putting more pressure on d5, and pawn to c6. So just strengthening the attack on d5. Queen goes here, trying to attack on b7, queen b6, activating. Now see, one more thing that we have to understand. Suppose why queen b3 is played. First of all, it's a very active development of the queen. Secondly, because the f5 bishop is out, the c8 bishop is out to f5. Once the chessboard is set, the c8 bishop always defends b7 pawn. And once the bishop is out, so this is again asking questions. The bishop is out of the opponent. So what was the bishop doing earlier? So the answer will come out to be, it was defending the b7 pawn. So now no one is defending b7 pawn. That's why the move queen b3 to attack b7. I played queen b6 because it's the same thing. I don't want to be very, very defensive. Like, I don't want to play such kind of moves, because b6 is like, I'm not developing anything. I'm just responding to the attack. That is what I don't want to do. Rather, just to show you how quickly it will go wrong, if you just respond to the attack, what he will do, he will change. If you will change like this, and now you are helping your opponent to just develop pieces with more active development, with more active play. So this is what is something which can be going wrong very, very quickly for black. Rather, if opponent is trying to attack, if we are having the option to defend that attack in an active way and passive way, we should go for the active play. So after queen b6, c5, making sure that I am capturing their queen, which happened in the game, because the logic is this. After queen takes, pawn takes, and now the rook is already on the open file. I mean semi-open file, a very open, like there's a lot of open spaces here. And it's like the rook has not even moved and the rook is already developed. So that's the deal, that the rook has not even moved, but it's already developed. It has to not even change any file. It is already on the open space. So that's how it goes. So the compensation, every action in chess has one good part and one bad part. The good part of this exchange is rook has the open space for white. The bad part is he's having double pawns. Like a pawn always like to defend a different pawn. Like this pawn is defending this guy, this pawn is defending this guy, this pawn is defending this guy, the same thing. But if you look at these two pawns, they're not defending each other, so they're bad pawns. Like if I put any rook behind and I try to attack these two guys, they cannot save each other. So that's the bad part of this transaction. But every action, if you do any action in chess, they have these two components, one good, one bad. Moving on, knight d7, a regular development. Pawn b4, because my opponent was already aware that these two are the weaknesses, so he wants to exchange the weak pawns. I cannot play something like a defensive passive move. I cannot play something like this just to develop a bishop. Because if you notice carefully, now you should start comparing your pieces. Light square bishop, okay, he can also bring the bishop somehow up. Maybe he wants to go pawn up. And suppose if I take, he will take by the bishop. And also the bishop will also come out. The dark square bishop for white is superbly placed on this open diagonal. But my dark square bishop is a very, very bad piece. It's not even having any space to breathe. So literally it's a very bad piece. So what I want my knight to be involved, and I want to exchange the very good piece from white. So I played knight h5. Obviously my opponent is not so generous to give me that. Oh, he was actually. So after change, actually I was thinking that he should have played something like bishop c7. Now it's bishop c7 is good. The point is rook c8 involves the variations like suppose bishop a5, and now I guess it's fine. I guess rook c8 is still, bishop goes back. Even if knight captures, the deal is even his rook is coming out, and now this pawn is kind of hanging. So I guess he should not have allowed bishop captures over here. I guess this is inaccurate. So he played b5. He was very, very curious to play b5. Again, the same thing. If opponent is trying to attack you, you should not be so fast in just reacting to this threat, because I'll be only helping my opponent to develop. So what did I do? I first of all captured, pawn captures, and then bishop e7. Just ignoring this thing. Why? A very normal move like this can lead to disasters. After knight b5, now if you play bishop e7, knight c7 is a fork that we were talking about. One piece of opponent attacking two pieces of your side. You can only save one of them and the other one is lost. So this is losing. So that is why not always we should react to our opponent's threat. My main purpose of opening is to develop my pieces. So I should stick to my principles. And after bishop e7, and see, even he is not capturing me, because if he captures, I will capture, and now the situation is fine. Now no knight is coming to my camp because I can just capture it. So anyways, now bishop e7, knight f3, pawn h6, a very nice move. Pawn h6 is played because if I just castle, now he will also think that, okay, my bishop is very active than his bishop, and it's the same logic. No, sorry, it's the same. He cannot even go here. I guess I could have gone. Yeah, he can something like go here and try to attack my bishop, something like that. But still I can play something like this. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Anyway, I played I guess h6 here to play a precautionary move, not allow the bishop to be trapped. Knight e5, I think it was the critical error in the game, because I'll tell you why again. It's very important to look, start looking from the very beginning itself, start looking very deeply and very analytically. Suppose this knight from g1 is coming to f3, is coming to e5. It's like the white side is investing two moves, And even after that transaction, it's getting away. And now if you notice at the development of the pieces, I'm having bishop pairs, which are the two pieces that are already out. My opponent only has one piece. Even though white has the initiative, white has the first move, white only has one piece out in the center, I'm already having two pieces out. So that is why he should not have gone for the exchange of the knights here itself. It is bad. This decision from my opponent is not so good. Anyways, then f6 is played. I want to challenge this pawn straight away because I want to, whenever so many pieces come in your camp, if you look carefully again, these three guys are in my camp already. And opponent doesn't even have any piece backing these pawns. So what should I do? If I start attacking these guys straight away, I will just disrupt the entire pawn structure of my white side. So after f6, he played f4, and now it's the same thing. He's trying to, I'm not allowing him to develop his pieces. He really wants to bring the bishop out in castle, but it's not happening up, because if he brings the bishop out like that, pawn takes, and now bishop takes c5. Because again, the same story. This pawn is defending these two guys. It can only hang up to one of the pawns. So suppose if I change, they will lose the other one. And look at my bishops. So that is why my white side, like my white opponent really wants to castle, but it's not happening up because I'm making sure that he's pushing too many moves with the pawns. He's investing all his beginning moves only for the pawns, which is not the right thing. So now pawn takes pawn, and now I castle straight away. Because once I castle, my rook is already on the open file. That's how we have to be very quick in the development of the pieces. That my rook is already, after I castle, my rook is already on the open file. So now bishop here is played in the game. And now finally I played bishop g5. Why bishop g5? Because suppose if he castles, it's a mistake. The point is, I'm having bishop pair, my opponent doesn't have bishop pair. That is one thing. The second thing is that opponent has too many pawns in my camp, and only this pawn is defending it. So if he castles, I'll try to create a fork. Check to the king. King moves away, and then I will capture this pawn. And now everything is loose. It's like domino effect. The base is falling and the empire will go down. So that is the case. That is why making too many moves with the pawns is never ever a good choice. So now obviously he cannot castle. So he played rook to d1, supporting the pawn. And now he again wants to castle, because now after a check, my bishop, so suppose let me just transfer some moves. Suppose let me play a random move. Let me just transfer something. And now if he castles, check, he goes away, and now I cannot capture the pawn sadly. Because the rook is the one guarding. So let's go back. And again, let's go back to the questions that we have in mind. What has the opponent made the move? So the answer is rook d1. Why has he made the move? He has made the rook on a closed file. So I'm making sure that my opponent's big pieces are getting involved in just defending a smaller piece, the smallest possible piece on the board. It's never recommended. The rooks never ever like to defend one single point piece. It should be the other way around. Here, rook is also placed on a closed file, which is again anti-positional, which is not in the line of principles. So here I played bishop c2, just deflecting the rook away, because now rook cannot go. Suppose if the rook cannot go here, bishop will take, and that is the power of the bishop pair. Once the position is open, no, the bishop pairs can cover a lot many squares. He cannot go here, same thing. He cannot go here, same thing. Cannot come up, same thing. So technically he cannot choose any of these squares. And if we go back, and this is the same point what we have, I'll go bishop e3, and now it's just crushing. It is just almost over. d4 is hanging. Rook can enter. This rook can just form battery. It is just over. So my opponent here decided to give away the rook. I captured it because obviously rook is having higher value than bishop. And after this, the point is now we have reached such kind of situation in which one of my rook is superbly placed. Other rook is also coming on this. Oops, sorry. Other rook is also coming on this open space. And now he played rook a1 because if I change my rook directly, I could have done that, but he takes me. I can take him. He goes back, and the point is, it's like his rook is getting activated. My rook is also getting activated. It's fine, but I want to do the same thing. I want to make my rook active, but at the same point of time, I don't want my opponent to get some activity. So see how that happened in the game. I wanted to bring the rook on this b2 pawn because this is a lone pawn. This is the pawn which is the weakest link in the opponent's camp. But if I choose this rook, a7 hangs. So I went with the other rook. And now the point is he's playing this to defend it. And again, I'm making sure his bigger piece is getting involved in just saving a pawn, which is again against the principles of the game. A smaller piece should always like to defend a bigger piece, not the other way around. And here, if you are making sure that you are always, move by move, if you are making sure that your opponent is making their bigger pieces tied down to defend a single point piece, positionally they are lost. You just have to convert it. So now I want to bring both the rooks in the game, but I want to save a7. So rook b7 first, rook a3, and now finally I'm having both the rooks on the attack on the weakest link. And now bishop here is played, and now again he wants some activity by capturing the pawn. I won't allow that. I go here, check, and now he is having the rook on the perfect file, but only for one move. After king to e7, he wants rook check, which is something to be worried about. So better is to exchange because this rook is not so active. It is kind of it's a piece on the last rank. It has not even come up, and this guy has spent one move. No, suppose I guess it was here. So one move, two move, three move. So it has spent three moves, and this rook has only spent one move. So what I can do? Rook f8. Just exchange the piece. The only active piece for white is the rook, which is trying to create some attack. So just remove the attacker, the only attacker from the game. He defended it, and now he has given me the open file. So now I tried to develop because this d4 pawn, the pawn, I'm just trying to hit on the pawn, that's it. And my opponent resigned because it cannot be saved anymore. This is the second game. So I wanted to show basically one more, but I guess
Sir, complete the game, sir. How it will complete it?
he resigned, sir. He resigned here only because the point is wherever he chooses to go. Suppose if he choose to go here, I can try to give him one small check, and wherever he goes. Suppose if he goes here, he loses the pawn.
Okay.
Wherever he goes, if he goes here, same story. So it's about that only, that a pawn, if like we should focus on development of the pieces. If your pieces are active, then the game will go on in a better direction as compared to if you're making sure that you're making too many moves with the pawns. So that is not recommended.
Okay, sir.
So if any questions are there, then we can look at the questions. Otherwise, we'll be stopping here. And next week we'll be solving some patterns together. So suppose we have seen some of the white basic, how to develop as white. Today I wanted to show only as black because I wanted to show the perspective, the open, like show the introduction from both the sides. And from next week onwards, I'll be starting to, like I was using many terms today, like something like pins, fork, discovered attack, and these kind of terms. So what I'll be doing in the next week Tuesday class. I'll be if everybody can do these topics by themselves, that is fine. Otherwise, we'll be doing five points from each one of them, because it's very repetitive. It's very repetitive, and once you understand the concept, you can just keep applying it by practicing it. So the point is, I can do every topic, say let's say 5 or 6 from each one of them, and then we can go forward, because one specific class is required to understand these terms, like what are hanging pieces, what are fork, what is the meaning of disco, what is the meaning of capture defender, because I will be using these terms more and more. And so what is skewer and clearance attraction, I won't be able to sum up everything in a class, but I'll be trying to include the majority, like the topics that will be used in most of the games, and the topics that will be applied in most of the games. So this is what I'll be keeping the next Tuesday class about. Then after that, I'll be again going for the theoretical openings. Then we'll be starting the proper theoretical openings. Once we have understood the general introduction of how to develop pieces, then we will understand, like in the coming week, we'll understand how to understand these terminologies. And then from the next week's class, we'll be starting the proper thematic openings. So I hope, so this is the plan. And the last Tuesday of the month, we'll be keeping the game analysis session. We'll be trying to analyze the games from your IDs. So I'll be stopping here. If there is any question, we can answer them. Then otherwise, we are good to go.
All good, Sarthak sir. No questions from my side.
All right, sir.
Yes, sir. From my side also, no questions, sir.
Okay. Akriti, any doubts?
No.
Actually, I had just one question. Is it okay to lose your queen so early in the game?
Depends, like what is the compensation that we are getting. Suppose if I'm getting 2 rooks and I'm losing my queen for that, it is fine, we can do that. If I'm winning maybe a knight and a bishop for my queen, I won't do that. But there's some instances, suppose I'll just show you, there's a very funny line now that you've mentioned it. I'll show you one instance in which queen sacrifices are also possible, but generally we should save the queen till the very end of the piece, because that is the most important weapon we have. But suppose in such kind of situations, suppose I'll show you one game which is kind of a famous game, and the point is, yeah, I guess no, castle is not required. Knight c3. Now bishop g4, I will kick it, he'll go there, and now here it is called as, it's a very specific checkmating pattern. It's like it happens in once in a blue moon. It won't happen every time, but only here the move is knight takes pawn, sacrificing a full queen, because the king is totally stuck and we are having this check. So if bishop takes my queen, bishop check, knight guarding, only move, and now knight to d5, checkmate. Only here it is possible, but this thing has been so popular now that nobody falls for it now. Even if, suppose the question can be, suppose if knight e5, what if he doesn't capture, what if he captures me like this? Even then I'll just take the bishop. If you take me again, so again, question for the class, how should I recapture the knight? So this will be the final and like point of the class. Will be stopping here in the chat. If any, like everyone can reply, how can we recapture the knight? So if you notice carefully, we are down a piece. Opponent has just captured my bishop. We are down a piece, but it can be recaptured back. Okay, so there's one answer. Yes, exactly. Yes. So the point is, I'll go queen b5 fork. and the knight is just gone. And in this transaction, whatever happens, I'll be up a pawn anyways. I'm +1. So to answer the question, queen has to be saved for till the very end of the game. Like, queen should be one of the major pieces that should be involved in the checkmates.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
thank you so much.
okay. So I wish you all good night, and I'll be seeing you next week.
Yeah, sir. Good night,
Thank
sir.
you, thank you.
Good night, sir. Good night, sir. Thank you.
Good night.